Hello, everyone. This is Kate Lipper-Garabedian. Thank you for joining me for Conversations with Kate. Today is a bittersweet podcast because I am back where we all started this journey together on podcasts with my legislative fellow, Diana Haber-Daws. You joined the office in September through a fellowship with Leadership for Educational Equity, and we are rounding out your 9-month time in the office, helping with so many of the projects that my office has been working on, including the podcast series. So, Diana, thanks for being here.
Yes, excellent. So grateful to be here again.
Yes. So why don't we remind folks a little bit about the Leadership for Educational Equity and how we were connected and sort of what the vision of a fellowship program like this is.
Excellent. Thank you. So it's a 9-month full-time public policy fellowship is the name, in which it was designed for originally Teach for America alumni, so those who had served in the classroom. And being involved in this organization is an opportunity to get connected into the work of policy and advocacy and really have that experience, and also, essentially have that foot in the door to get classroom teachers elevated in education policy and education spaces. I'm really proud to say that in the New England cohort, I am the only one serving under an elected official. So it's been an incredible opportunity, especially getting to, in our cohort meetings, in our fellowship, learn from the other work that my colleagues are leading in, and then being able to inform them for the work that they're leading on and the policies they receive and how we're informing those policies and being in part of that legislative making. So it's been an incredible opportunity. There are fellows serving all over the country, and it's really excited to close out this chapter and see where we go next with this and how this experience has informed our next steps.
That's great. And, I'm thinking, obviously, we both did Teach for America, and the idea of sort of supporting the alumni corps in various pursuits. Leadership for Educational Equity also does support, for training people who want to be on boards and commissions or who want to run for public office. They had some great supports for me years ago when I was exploring that possibility. And it is really neat to think about the intersections of advocacy, communication, strategy, policy, and then bringing in a teacher voice, which has been, so rewarding for me to have a fellow teacher in the office thinking about some of the legislation that I've filed or, ways in which we support students across the state with our COVID response, for example. And it's been really a wonderful compliment to have a thought partner like you working with me over the school year.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And pursuing elected office is one of the reasons why it motivated me to apply to this fellowship, and so grateful that I got placed with you and being able to learn from you and your journey and see that, yes, I can, because you lead with such confidence and really excellence in responsive governance. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Diana. So let's let people know about all the things you were working on. Obviously, we've got a lean office. There's you, there's me, there's Julia, the legislative aide, and then we'll have an intern here and there that's been tremendous for bandwidth. But you had a very comprehensive portfolio, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the things that you really enjoyed working on.
Sure, lots of fun. So something I've always prided myself on is being adaptable, being first generation and having, a daughter of immigrants, and then just always loving to be involved in many things. Growing up, I was involved in extracurriculars. And so context shifting was something that I thought I was really strong at. Being in this office has put that to the test. I feel like we are our own little startup, being able to do as much as we can with really such care. And even navigating grad school, I thought, that was context shifting. But here was really an excellent opportunity to being able to put on my, legislative analysis hat and support with the student data and educator privacy bill and research and drafting, testimonies and coordinating with internal and external partners to really advance this legislation, in addition to the blockchain special commission. And so I knew nothing about blockchain coming in, and now I wouldn't say an expert, but definitely much more, at the end of these 9 months than I had going into this. And the founding of the caucus, being able to support with that was the blockchain caucus and emerging technologies was really an excellent opportunity. Being able to lean on Elder Affairs Committee and Elder Affairs work, especially in response to COVID-19 and its implications, right? You, Kate, as the vice chair of this really critical committee, was an excellent opportunity to be able to dive into these initiatives and support the policy to advance that would really meet the needs.
Yes.
In addition, office and constituent engagement, the community conversations, for those of you who are aware, may not be aware, it is a quarterly webinar on, I guess it was at first single issues, but now it has kind of morphed into being, serving the needs of what the constituents are asking for and what our audience has. So that's been really fun, coordinating with experts in the field, and we define experts very broadly, right? Those who are passionate, as a neighbor on, who has their own residential solar, to executive directors of really important, critical organizations who are leading great work. In addition to launching this podcast has been really so much fun, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. And then the Spring Cleaning for a Cause initiative, which came out of a meeting that a briefing I had attended on the telecommunications, utilities, and energy, which, of course, you may know, Rep. Kate is a member of that important committee. And this was an opportunity to work with, grassroots organizations and leaders in the state and across the Commonwealth in support of how do we ethically upcycle and recycle, our unwanted goods or things, that we have laying in our home that we may not know what's the best way to, to recycle that electronic or that hard to recycle plastic and those liners. And so this is being, a hub and opportunity to show, collaborative leadership together, but really in for something that is so necessary, I think every household can relate to, and take climate action in a really tangible way. And also learn how to get better connected with the organizations within your own community who are leading in climate action.
That's right. And so that was we had a successful first inaugural event in Melrose last month. And then tomorrow we'll be up in Wakefield. I mean, when people hear this, it'll have already happened. But we set the groundwork to do it on an annual basis, which is what we have to do. I mean, it has to be a continuous effort to support our climate.
Excellent. Yes.
Great.
It's been fun.
And one thing I also just thought of in thinking about the community conversations, and so you helped lead on 4 of them. We did, I think, childcare and early education. We did elder affairs. At the beginning of this year, a commitment to lifelong learning and setting, goals for a holistic new year. And then most recently, the climate action with solar panels, EVs, and heat pumps. All were fantastic. And so we've got a really great system now for thinking about what our next one will be, just as with these podcasts. We've done a couple dozen maybe or close to at this point. And one thing that was really great was we put out a survey, to your point about responsive government and thinking about how to bring voices, elevate voices, bring voices to the table. I really want to commend you on always thinking through the lens of how do we get more information from the people who we want to work with and serve. And those surveys sort of led us in a direction of doing some of these podcasts or the community conversations.
Thank you, Kate. Yes, it's been a lot of fun. Continue to fill out the survey.
Yes, and maybe we'll give it a little polish and send one out again in the fall to sort of put together another template of good opportunities. What about some of your proudest moments in the office? Because what you just listed off is incredible amount of work. And so, love to hear what you're most proud of in all of this.
Yes, thank you. And so within these last 9 months, I would say one of my most proudest moments was bringing on, hiring and onboarding our legislative aide, Julia. I would say when I had first onboarded and got news that the current legislative aide or former legislative aide was leaving, I was quite overwhelmed as learning about how to handle, office logistics and do my work really well. And Julia's been incredible in that even process. I've never been involved with hiring, a professional in that way. And so thank you, Kate, for trusting me with, being a thought partner and bringing her on. Since then, we've in onboarding in a remote environment is not easy. I'm sure many of you may have experienced or have someone in your close network having to onboard in a remote environment. So creating a sense of team and purpose and shared vision is a challenge, but also a great opportunity. And so creating and facilitating weekly professional developments, also along with our legislative intern, Lauren, was really a great opportunity to kind of see maybe what's missing in terms of cultivating, a sense of team, a positive culture, but also just cultivating our own leadership capacities. I think that we may overlook sometimes, the tasks versus the capacity behind, what goes into those tasks. And so kind of going to that root cause and getting down, to what does it really mean to lead with passion? What does it mean to lead with your values? And so organizing the content for these weekly sessions around, leading from your values, bringing your authentic voice into the workspace, how to overcome overwhelm and really having time management opportunities and ways to balance the context shifting and priorities. As well as, cultivating trust within yourself, within your colleagues, and how to, break down something so vague and big as the elements of trust and being able to operationalize that in a way that, reinforces who the kind of leader that you want to show up to be, but also, the great work that you're leading on it and making sure that it's leading the impact that you intend to. And so that's been a really great opportunity also just to kind of connect more informally with, Julia and our legislative aide, our intern, Lauren. I was supporting Lauren and doing her mock interviews and preparing for, her own first professional steps after she's graduating undergrad. And so that's been incredibly rewarding. And being able to bit back having that classroom experience was something that I really love to do.
I was just going to say there's a lot of that resonating with me in terms of the role of a teacher and working, with students and learning from your students, and always, there's this potential to not only work to, help them meet the goals that they have, but also be reinforcing what is your purpose in all of this? What's your mission? How are they showing you how to, improve in your own craft and trajectory, right?
That's very much so. Yeah, the teacher in us.
Yes, exactly. Well, yes, I would say that was a remarkable time, right? You had just joined, and then there was we had to go through the legislative aid process, and we had dozens of people apply, and so it was. And I'm so thrilled that Julia was able to join our office, and then with your great foresight to sort of create a program of support, which was, I think, particularly important during a remote environment where no one was working together. I mean, the State House only recently did we start returning with some regularity. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it was really rewarding and fulfilling and nourishing in so many ways. And being able to expand the capacity of our office that we can take on and do more work, with substance and quality is really important.
Great. What about some of the things that you'll take away in terms of, learning, personal takeaways, professional takeaways from the office?
Yes, certainly. Well, this podcast is one of them. I've always loved listening to podcasts and, avid podcast listener myself. I think I just really love people and hearing their stories. But being able to be on the content creating side and see it as a way to really expand civic engagement and transparency in governance and inform, what we're hearing on the ground, right, for responsive governance, what's really profound. And I feel like every elected official should have some sort of way to connect with the leaders and the great residents and who make up their to make their district so extraordinary.
Sure.
It was really such a special opportunity, and I feel really honored to have been a part of so many stories and guests that have been on here. And just being able to get connected with the district, so it helps inform the way that I think, when I'm drafting templates for communication materials or whatnot, thinking about the people who will see them and respond them, to have knowing their stories and are connected to the district has made it so much more meaningful. In addition, though, professionally, the role of committee staff was something I was not aware of in terms of the legislative process. Truly, committee staff, shout out to you. You do incredible work and under very, very tight circumstances and sometimes very tight deadlines. But so much of, the legislative process in terms of the weight in which how a bill advances lays on the hands of the committee staff. So it's really important to work with them, get to know with them, and create that partnerships with them and check in with them, circle back. It speaks to the importance of collaboration and partnerships and advocacy. We get tons of emails from organizations to constituents, and I'm really glad to say that, Rep. Kate, it truly is a responsive, strong advocate leader in which she reads your advocacy, informs it, thinks about it in a really thoughtful way. And it just really speaks to the importance of democratic values, upholding that people power, like everything I believe that is so great about our government has really worked in our office. And so the importance of advocacy. If you think your voice isn't heard, keep sharing it, write that email, show up to create a meeting with your elected official, join that advocacy organization, build that coalition, continue that, strengthen numbers, build that network, because truly people power.
Yes. And I want to just go back, I think in our very first conversation, you talked a little about your family background. You referenced it now as a first-generation American. But do you mind just sort of I know that grounds and informs your perspective, including because your parents are from Cuba, which is a very different form of government. So I kind of hear within your voice, a reflection of that personal acknowledgement as well, and what the difference is depending on where you're born.
Yes, excellent. Thank you so much, Kate, for bringing that up. So I'm my family, just as Kate noted, I'm a daughter of Cuban immigrants, and I was raised with the importance of education. Right, my mom would always say, education's the one thing that no one can take away from you. They came to this country really not having anything. So the importance of education and having that education inform the way that we live, and so much of our life, everything about our life, is informed about the governance that we have and the policies that we have in order to thrive. And so the importance of policy as human progress, policy to create spaces of joy. Right? It's not just about creating spaces of justice, right? It's creating spaces for joy so that you can have choice to feel liberated, right, in your life and have choice. And so that having choice, right, comes from informing those who are in power that make their choices. And that comes from, thoughtful advocacy and that commitment to continue to raise your voice. So thank you.
Thank you. So what's next for Diana Haber-Daws? You're here for 2 more weeks, and then I know you won't be a stranger. We'll continue to be in touch. But let people know what you're thinking about for next steps.
So thank you. I have loved so much being in the room where it happens, so they say. So my husband and I are now going to the big room where it happens, and we're relocating to Washington, D.C., hopefully this summer. And that's when, we're going to consider starting our family and just getting connected with the networks and the family and friends that we have already in the DC area. And in terms of, I'm fully committed of a career in public service and nonprofit work and continuing within the scope of education policy. And in my long-term vision is to run for elected office one day, when the time is right and the position is right. I always think about, President Obama's quote, "If not you, then who?" So listening to that internal compass of mine, and when the spidey senses say, now it's your time, then, listening to that to go. And I would just, continue to understand, at least part of my own learning and perhaps advice for young professionals who are in this space is don't change who you are personally for who you think you need to be professionally. And I would have always, like my proudest moments, at least in these last 9 months, but really looking back and, my entire tenure of being a young professional is when I let the best part about me shine. And when I've put like my heart into that email or that, creating that template or really having that research, and like the best thing about you is you. So let that shine, because that's no matter what role you have or what title you are, like you are you. And so just get really clear on that and let it shine, and then let that drive your purpose. I also got really great advice throughout this 9 months of what's next, was don't take the job that you think you're going to need for the job that you think you're going to want 5 years from now. Because as we know, the world could have many different plans, and we are in flux and change is rapid. And so as I'm going to be really thoughtful about what my next step will be and ensure that it allows me the flexibility, to become a mom, but also feel really purposeful and fulfilled.
I have a lot of faith that you'll navigate all those choices really well, and that they'll be really great choices for you. And I'm excited to see what comes next. So as you head off to DC, sometime this summer, we've also, when we first arrived, it was the fall. We were gearing ourselves up or bracing ourselves for winter, talking about how we looked forward to spring. And you bring joy, I think, into many different environments, whether it's virtual or in person. And so I love that about you, and also the reminder of, like, we're not just looking for justice, we also want joy. And that's, they're hand in hand in some ways. Anything maybe that brought you joy in the district? So we finally got back into the State House some. We got lost together maybe a little bit. But you've also done a great job of being up here, in Wakefield and Melrose and Malden. Anything that you'll want to take with you from the district specifically as you head off to DC?
Yes, thank you. Well, first is just I'm so impressed with how civically engaged and involved the community is in the 32nd Middlesex. It gives me a lot of hope for, and also aspirations of the next communities that I've been in, and what it really takes to build and create a sense of community. I've loved being able to connect here, specifically in Melrose, as we're at MMTV right now, and my walks to and from Biddy and Beau's. So Biddy and Beau has, the coffee shop here has just lifted me up in so many ways. And I hope that listeners, you have an opportunity to take advantage of what a really special space this is. And great coffee, great teas, and proud to say that they're opening a location in Georgetown. So I will be a frequent visitor from when I am now a DC resident.
That's lovely to know. I didn't know that. That's great. Well, Diana, thank you again for your incredible commitment to civic engagement, to supportive advocacy on the issues we care about, to making our office run better, because we only we can only do the good work if we are functioning and supportive and have a really strong culture. And so it's thanks to you that early on in our office's existence, I think we have a really good start, and I'm grateful for all of your work and efforts to make that possible.
Yes, thank you so much. A testament to your strong leadership and thoughtful guidance and wisdom and care. So thank you so much, Kate. It really is such a rewarding, incredible experience. I can't wait to see how this experience informs my next steps. And so thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for listening for Conversations with Kate. Please be well.